Alright, so I was going home on the 5 last night, and I was going south on the 5, and I meant to get off of Magnolia, but I got off on Burbank. And I was traveling down Burbank, and I pulled over, and I got out, and I went into a store that I thought was a diner, but it was actually a haircut place because I was on Burbank instead of Magnolia. And when I went in, I was like, hey, can I get a Salisbury steak? And the guy looked at me, and he's like, no.
Getting lost isn't fun.
Hey everyone, welcome to GameGorgon. My name's Indigo.
I'm awake, and I'm Krug.
And before we start this episode, I just wanted to remind you guys to make sure to hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed, and hit the bell icon so that you guys can get notifications for all of our future stuff.
Yeah.
On to what we're actually going to talk about, which is Unearthed Arcana, the Into the Wild update, which is all about travel.
For those of you that haven't played Dungeons & Dragons before.
One, why are you watching this?
Well, because you want to get into Dungeons & Dragons. There are a lot of people that
Don't start with this.
Okay. Traveling in Dungeons & Dragons is kind of difficult to do well. It's a situation where you don't really have a lot to do, and if you stumble across something, it's almost certainly not going to be important, because you as the players are traveling towards the important thing, the next important thing that you need to do. And so everything on the way is basically a distraction. And as a DM, in a campaign where you're controlling the environment and you're controlling the story, it's a little easier to kind of work in some nuances like, oh, this little thing will help you in this small way later on. For things like a book, a campaign book, it's difficult to do that when you're traveling, especially with the volume of travel in some of these books. Like, we're playing Tomb of Annihilation right now, and it's literally all travel.
What was the other book? Out of the Abyss? That was.
Oh, Out of the Abyss was, I think, worse.
Yeah.
We didn't even get through, like, the first third of Out of the Abyss.
I mean, in campaigns that I've written, there's outside things, except for I tried to make traveling, like, the least amount of time.
A spoke travel system,
yeah,
right?
Like,
where you're going
from
here to back, and then here, back, and here, back. You're never really straying too far from your environment, because again, it's super boring.
Yeah, travel, and then random encounters as a DM, I hate random encounters, because it takes away from the storytelling narrative. Now, you can make random encounters be a part of the story, but at that point they're no longer random. It's just like, okay, you guys are camping.
Then it's an encounter. And if you keep it as a random encounter, you're basically generating interesting content for your players, and then if they miss a roll, they don't get to have your interesting content. Like, why would you make that a thing? You know?
Yeah. So this Unearthed Arcana is a system that they're looking at testing and possibly adding into a future book. And quick looking through it,
I don't think it's going to make it.
I don't like it.
I don't think it's going to make it. So let's talk about what it has, and we'll talk about why we don't think it's going to make it into any of the rulebooks. The most obvious thing that's being added is a navigation check, a skill check that allows you to determine whether or not you get lost. So the first thing we're going to show you is a table of the DCs for the navigation check. You'll notice there's a none option, which is unique for a DC table. And none basically says the location you're going to is on a road, very clearly mapped. You know exactly where you're going and how to get there. And barring somebody knocking you unconscious and dragging you somewhere random, you're probably not going to get lost. And then it goes all the way up to level 30 or DC 30, where you are in a location that is protected by very powerful magic, to the point where the environment is like conspiring against you and trying to get you to not reach your location, which I think is cool. I think those are interesting ways of like playing into like how the environment interacts with the players. I just don't think the result is good.
And I think the idea of a navigation DC check makes sense and is a good idea. Like, hey, you hear rumor of this tower, right, that exists up here. You as a player, or you as a DM, can sit there and say, they need to roll this to get it straight off the bat. If they don't get this, they're gonna have to search for more information that's in the city. But as a DM, you can also just be like, you've heard rumor of it, you've got to get more information.
Yeah.
You know, like...
There's like a lot of stuff I think that's good about this. I just think the consequences aren't super great. Like, so let's talk about the consequences for failing one of those rolls. So there's now an official getting lost mechanic. If you're lost, you roll a d6. If you roll a 1 through a 4, you land 2d6 miles in a random direction from your destination. If you roll a 5 and a 6, After traveling in circles, you end 1d6 miles in a random direction from your starting point. So basically what you're doing is putting people further and further away from, again, the interesting thing, the most interesting thing to the players right now in your campaign. Allow them to travel the same distance, but make them give up a spell slot, or make them give up an item, or make them give up some gold.
Point of exhaustion.
Yeah, give them a point of exhaustion. There's any number of things that you can do to a player that isn't like preventing them from getting to the interesting content.
Well, and
that is also painful to them. You know?
if you want a part of the content to be the fact that it's difficult to get to, and that the players are going to get lost, this is a world of magic and whimsy. You're the god. Do that. And if you don't want it to be magical, you can easily just say it's like it's an updating town. You come across you come across a fork in the road, one to the left and one to the right. You're not sure because it's not written on your map which direction is where to go. That is a non-magical way to get your party to possibly go on a side adventure that you have written or created that could either help or hinder them on your main event and make it interesting. One of the DMs that I play with, Dave, a really fun thing that he always like jokes around about being a DM is like, if you want your players to come across the dragon and they go through the door on the left, they hit the dragon. But if they decided to go through the door on the right, they get the dragon.
Yep.
Like, you're the DM. You can choose how the world works, what the rooms look like, how the rooms are fit within everything.
While still giving your players a sense of freedom and a sense of control, and without boring them by making everything hyper-realistic.
Yeah, it's like
it's not even a fine line. It's a really thick, easy to hit line, in my opinion.
And most DMs I know don't even follow the rules of travel from the Dungeon Master's Guide. Nonetheless, an extended, I don't, neither of us do. Like,
I think if they're planning on releasing rules for travel, they need to get rid of the lost mechanic, first of all, completely. They need to replace it with other, more interesting, easier to resolve quickly consequences, and maybe get some kind of boon in there, not just like, oh, you successfully get to where you're going, good job.
You rolled a high enough thing, you've gotten there before you expected.
Part of the consequences, like, it seems weird to be like, your consequence of like not getting there is getting further away, which adds more travel. And if you just keep doing a bad, like if you keep just rolling poorly, you get like really far away and it just adds travel time.
Exactly.
That seems like
it's the worst.
You can be on a loop of just traveling.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys go down in the comments and let us know what you think Wizards of the Coast can do to spice up travel.
Or if you like this idea, this Unearthed Arcana, which we'll obviously have links for in the description, let us know why. Let us know what about this adds the like flavor you're looking for in travel, because honestly we don't see it.
And while you guys are down there, make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you are not subscribed.
That's 2 buttons.
2 separate buttons. And a third button.
3 buttons.
Hit the bell icon if you want to get notifications for all of our future content. My name's Indigo. You can reach me on Twitter at IndigoQT.
And my name's Krug. You can get me at KrugQT on Twitter. You can also reach both of us at _QueueTimes on Twitter. We have been GameGorgon. We will see you guys.